Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of Martial Universe episode number 26 based on novel. So let's start. Is this Yang City? It is indeed filled with countless powerful practitioners. Mo Ling and the rest also detected several powerful auras that shot through the horizons. Immediately, or gushed into their faces. In this city, the weakest one was probably an initial manifestation stage practitioner. After all, no matter how small one's kingdom was, if one was unable to reach manifestation stage, there would be no point in entering the 100 Empire War. Lin Dong also gently nodded his head. It seems like almost every elite practitioner, within a several 100-mile radius, had gathered in Yang City. In fact, some powerful empires were also stationed at this city. This was the first time that Lin Dong had actually witnessed such a magnificent sight. Let's go and find a resting point in the city. After which, we can snoop around and try to find out the location of that mysterious ancient key. Besides, there seems to be something like a bazaar in this city. Lin Dong suddenly looked at Mo Ling before he said, yes, that venue is akin to a bazaar. If brother Lin Dong wants to buy anything, that is the place to go. Mo Ling nodded his head and said, however, the only currency accepted here is Nirvana pills. If you want to purchase something, you must have sufficient Nirvana pills. Lin Dong smiled. Right now, he desperately needed Nirvana pills. Therefore, how could he possibly spare any to purchase other items? The reason why he wanted to go to the bazaar was because he wanted to auction off some martial arts and soul treasures, and try to accumulate 30,000 Nirvana pills as soon as possible. After all, this would be crucial during the fight for the mysterious ancient key. This Yang City is extremely deep, and who knows if there are any Nirvana practitioners hidden within. Right now, since he had yet to fully refine his blood soul puppet, he could not last long in a fight, and he would be in trouble if he ran into any problem. Therefore, Lin Dong must quickly take care of the blood soul puppet. When he thought of this point, Lin Dong helplessly shook his head. It seems like he was nearly driven insane by these Nirvana pills. Promptly, he waved his palm, before little flame flapped its wings and increased its speed. Following which, it transformed into a red flash, and dashed into that massive Yang City. As Lin Dong did not want to attract attention, while he was still a distance away from Yang City, he immediately instructed little flame to descend. Then, all of them proceeded on foot rapidly. Soon after, that massive gate appeared in front of their eyes. Outside of the city gate, there were crowds of people continuously streaming through, while a noisy commotion echoed out and shot into the heavens. Outside of the Yang City, unlike the other gathering spots, there was no one asking for tolls. After all, this was not a small place and the ones who could reach here were all fairly skilled. Therefore, perhaps even a Nirvana practitioner would not be able to force them to obediently hand over the fees. Furthermore, various large empires were gathered at this spot, and they served as a check and balance on one another. Therefore, it would be impossible for the Saint Light Empire to dominate the entire city. Hence, after a short wait, Lin Dong and the rest successfully entered the city. Inside Yang City, even though there were no overlords, there were various powerful factions, which divided up the city and they each took a respective zone. The only rule here is that the weak will become prey for the strong. If one did not possess strength, then one did not deserve to possess treasure. The bazaar in Yang City was considered as the most crowded place in the entire city. Therefore, when Lin Dong and the rest reached this area, in front of their eyes, all they could see was a sea of black bobbing heads. When Lin Dong and the rest walked into the bazaar, they immediately spent a dozen over Nirvana pills, and obtained a stone tablet with a number written on it. Following which, they relied on their stone tablet to look for a spot in the bazaar. After they sat down on their seats, Lin Dong began to scan his surroundings. Immediately, his pupils gently shrunk. That was because he could sense that there were several powerful auras in this bazaar. After Lin Dong quickly scanned through the entire bazaar, he turned to look at the seats located right at the front of the bazaar. At that area, he saw some men and horses there. Meanwhile, right in the middle, he could faintly feel a formidable aura that could oppress the entire field, half-step to Nirvana. When he sensed that formidable aura, a tinge of shock flashed across Lin Dong's eyes. He had never expected that he would so quickly encounter a half-step to Nirvana practitioner after reaching Yang City. They are all powerful empires in Yang City, and all of them have half-step to Nirvana stage practitioners stationed. However, it seems like the Saint Light Empire's members are not around. When he saw Lin Dong's expression, Mo Ling softly said, that may not be true. When he heard his words, Lin Dong gently smiled. Then, he turned to look at a secluded corner on his right. At that area, there were a dozen over figures, while one of them sat quietly on a stone chair. This man was dressed in white robes, and he had a casual expression, while he slowly rotated a jade ball in his hand. Meanwhile, an extremely formidable yuan power vibration faintly appeared. This person was not foreign to Lin Dong. That was because he resembled the glowing figure that shone out from the white jade elephant. Even though that glowing figure looked blurry, Lin Dong was still able to recognize him instantly. This man was definitely the Saint Light Empire half-step to Nirvana stage practitioner, Jin Mu. Is that man Jin Mu? As they followed Lin Dong's eyes, Mo Ling and the rest also turned to look at that calm man, dressed in white robes. Immediately, their expressions changed. Evidently, they had never expected that after barely arriving at Yang City, they had directly collided with Jin Mu. It seems like enemies often cross paths, don't worry. That Jin Mu does not recognize us. Furthermore, you have killed all the men that he sent. Therefore, there is no way he can recognize us. Du Yun softly said. Lin Dong smiled casually. Even though he had encountered Jin Mu, he was not too worried about it. Even if that fellow recognized him, he had no need to fear. After all, now that he had mastered initial lesser Nirvana gold body, if they really fought, that Jin Mu may not defeat him. Everyone, my black soul treasure vest is an earthly soul treasure, and it is able to withstand an all-out attack from an advanced manifestation practitioner. Furthermore, there is a strange formation inside my soul treasure, and it is able to reduce the suppressive effects caused by nightfall in this ancient battlefield. Therefore, it will help you out tremendously in a prolonged fight. Let's start from 5,000 Nirvana pills. Just as Lin Dong turned away from that Saint Light Empire practitioner, nearby, a man had already stood up. Meanwhile, there was a black vest in his hands. Undulated on that vest was a powerful energy shockwave. The earthly soul treasure that this man had offered was pretty decent. Furthermore, since it could reduce some of the suppressive effects caused by nightfall, it caused some of them to immediately salivate. Promptly, several people quickly bidded. Eventually, this soul treasure was bought by a person for 7,000 Nirvana pills. In the following time, several people orderly displayed the items that they were auctioning. Some of them managed to obtain a fairly decent price, while some unlucky ones had no takers and they could only retreat gloomily. Action Demonic Wind Chilling Palm, Pseudo-Manifestation Martial Arts. Auction starting price, 4,000 Nirvana pills. Great Desolate Ocean Splitting Seal, Pseudo-Manifestation Martial Arts. If you can master it, it can be considered as a low-grade manifestation martial arts. Auction starting price, 5,000 Nirvana pills. Great Sun Thunder Body, Physical Enhancing Martial Arts. If you can master it, it is equivalent to a manifestation martial arts. There are hardly any equals within the same category. Auction starting price, 10,000 Nirvana pills. Amongst these three martial arts, the first was casually tossed to him by Little Martin. The second and third one had all been mastered by Lin Dong. Now that they were no longer needed, it was appropriate to auction them off. Even for most people here, manifestation martial arts was a rare find. After all, even the powerful Saint Light Empire only had a mid-grade manifestation martial arts. Therefore, when they saw Lin Dong casually auction off 3 pseudo manifestation martial arts, a slight buzz emerged in the auction house. In particular, the final Great Sun Thunder Body caused many people to stare at it fervently. Physical enhancing martial arts were rare, and many people placed great emphasis on improving their physical bodies. After all, regardless of whether one wanted to attack Nirvana stage or survive a Nirvana tribulations, one needed to have a strong physical body. Therefore, when the Great Sun Thunder Body manual appeared, even some half-step to Nirvana practitioners were moved. The only problem was that it was slightly pricey. After the bazaar was silent for a moment, the crowds quickly clamored to offer a higher price. Meanwhile, Lin Dong remained calm as he waited for the final number. Just as Lin Dong was waiting for the results of the auction, seated in front of him, that Jin Mu slowly tilted his head down before he turned to look at Lin Dong's figure. Then, his eyes were just like a poisonous cobra as they slowly narrowed. After he received that Qianquan bag, Lin Dong casually glanced at it before he finally nodded his head. The rules here were rather blurry and strength reigns supreme. Therefore, he was clearly aware that the previous fellow must have harbored ill intentions towards him. If Lin Dong did not use this method to secretly shock him, that fellow would not have so easily surrendered his Nirvana pills. After he sold the Great Desolate Ocean Splitting Seal, only the Great Sun Thunder Body remained. However, due to its exorbitant price, for a moment, there was actually no one who dared to bid. However, judging from the fervent expressions in the crowd's eyes, Lin Dong clearly knew that many of them were interested in it. Everyone, my great sun thunder body is split into 3 stages: bronze thunder body, jade thunder body, and great sun thunder body. If you can reach the highest stage, among practitioners in the same cultivation level, none of their physical bodies can match yours. 10,000 nirvana pills is not an expensive price. If any one of you are interested, feel free to bid. Lin Dong's casual words ricocheted across the bazaar. Ha ha, I am fairly interested in this physical enhancing martial arts. Even though it is not cheap, I believe that it is worth the price. In that case, let me take the lead. 11,000 nirvana pills. After Lin Dong spoke, a laughter finally sounded out. Lin Dong followed that voice only to see that in the seats at the front, there was a man wearing a blue shirt smiling at him. Lin Dong glanced at that man in a blue shirt. From the powerful shockwaves coursing through his body, he was evidently a half-stepped nirvana practitioner. However, what caused Lin Dong to be shocked was that after that man in a blue shirt spoke, there were a few sympathetic stares cast towards him. That man should be called Hai Shou from the Hai Ling Empire, and he has a fairly renowned reputation in Yang City. Most importantly, it is reputed that fellow hardly pays for what he buys. Oftentimes, he expects others to give it to him. Mo Ling's expression gently changed as he promptly whispered to Lin Dong. When he heard his words, Lin Dong's expression did not change and there was only a cold grin flowing in his eyes. He did not care how renowned that fellow was in Yang City. If he really wanted to take advantage of him, he would make him understand that what he would be biting into is no soft persimmon, but rather a hard steel board. Head, even though my steel empire's heavy steel body would not lose out to the great sun thunder body, I would still like to learn about it. 12,000 nirvana pills. Just as cold grin flashed across Lin Dong's eyes, suddenly a tanned muscular man released an odd laugh before he spoke. There was a metallic-like glow undulated on his body, and he seemed extremely sturdy, just like a steel board. When he heard this tanned muscular man's words, that man in blue shirt furrowed his brows. Promptly, he chose to ignore him before he turned to Lin Dong and asked casually, "Who do you want to sell to?" Even though he spoke casually, faintly, one could feel an ice-cold sensation emerging and there was a hint of intimidation behind his words. After Jin Mu casually laughed, his attention slowly focused on Lin Dong's body before he said, "Since you could come here, it seems like you must have killed everyone that I sent after you. However, I must admit that you have guts. After killing my Saint Light Empire members, you actually dare to appear in front of me. You believe that I can't recognize you. However, you are simply too greedy. Even though you have wiped off the mental energy seal in my white jade elephant, you are unable to completely wipe off the vibration war." When they heard Jin Mu's words, several people around stared in bewilderment at Lin Dong. Evidently, they did not expect that he actually dared to kill members from the Saint Light Empire. After all, everyone in Yang City knew that Jin Mu was a vengeful man. Therefore, it seemed like Lin Dong would probably meet his demise today. Ha ha, interesting. It seems like this kid has balls of steel. Hai Shou was also stunned, before he softly chuckled. In that case, I will let brother Jin Mu handle this problem. After you are finished with him, I will buy that physical enhancing martial arts from you for 10,000 nirvana pills. In Hai Shou's opinion, Lin Dong was merely at advanced manifestations stage, and he could easily kill him with a flip of his hand. Furthermore, based on his status, Lin Dong should be counting his blessings that he was willing to buy from him. However, he never expected Lin Dong to be this rude towards him, and this was unacceptable for him. However, with regards to the stares from the crowd as well as Jin Mu's words, Lin Dong chose to ignore them. After he kept his glowing tube, he lifted his head and stared at Jin Mu before he said, "Those bastards who rely on numbers to bully others are better off dead. Else, if they stuck around you, they would likely cause trouble for you. Even if they are useless, it is not for you to decide." Jin Mu casually laughed before he said, "How about you kill yourself? Else, if you end up in my hands, you will suffer a fate worse than death. I really wonder where your confidence stems from. Is it because you are at half-step to Nirvana stage?" Lin Dong helpless shook his head. "It seems like this great empire's members were all extremely arrogant. I have given you an opportunity, yet you chose not to treasure it." Jin Mu stared at Lin Dong. Moments later, the smile on his face gradually dimmed down. Following which, he slowly stood up, before he softly sighed. Then, his body gently trembled, before a formidable hurricane-like aura instantly gushed out from his body and enveloped the entire bazaar. When they saw this sight, everyone near Lin Dong immediately retreated and opened up a large circle around him. Meanwhile, There were even more sympathetic stares cast towards Lin Dong. That fellow was merely trying to auction his items, yet he still got into trouble. He was truly unfortunate. Mo Ling and the rest stuck closely behind Lin Dong, while they stared vigilantly at Jin Mu and the rest. Even though they knew that they would eventually clash with Jin Mu, they never expected that they would clash with him barely half a day after entering Yang City. Kid, in your next life, remember this. There are some people you cannot afford to offend. Jin Mu gazed down on Lin Dong, before he viciously unleashed a fist attack. Instantly, waves of Yuan power hurled forth before they directly transformed into a sprinting leopard. Then, with a vicious aura that was powerful enough to slaughter any peak manifestation practitioner, it dashed towards Lin Dong. That hunting leopard formed from Yuan power viciously dashed towards Lin Dong's body with a terrifying speed. Instantly, all the surrounding stone chairs blew up, before dust spread across the horizon. When they saw this sight, several of them shook their heads. It seems like that fellow would not even have the chance to cry out. That fellow is still alive. As a fellow half-step to Nirvana stage practitioner, Haisha was keenly aware of the difference between half-step to Nirvana and advanced manifestation stage. Furthermore, Jin Mu stemmed from Saint Light Empire, and he had a fairly decent background. Therefore, the martial arts that he cultivated in were fairly formidable, and even most fellow half-step to Nirvana practitioners would find it difficult to defeat him. Furthermore, Lin Dong was merely at advanced manifestation stage. The tanned muscular black man, who previously bidded as well, was also fairly intrigued as he stared at the showdown between the two of them. In his opinion, Lin Dong's provocations against Jin Mu was nothing to shout about. After all, there were no complex rules here, and if they did not meet eye to eye, the victor would have the final say. After all, strength reigns supreme. Of course, if Lin Dong failed, he would naturally have to pay a price for his arrogance. The bazaar was typically one of the more crowded places in Yang City, and most powerful empires were used to it. When they witnessed the standoff between them, most of them immediately turned to look. Evidently, they were curious as to how Lin Dong, who was merely at advanced manifestation stage, actually had the guts to challenge Jin Mu. Under countless stares from the crowd, the thick dust gradually settled. Following which, a figure slowly emerged from within. However, even after forcefully receiving Jin Mu's attack, Lin Dong's clothes were not rattled at all. When he saw that figure slowly walking out from within the dust, Jin Mu's pupils gently shrunk. Promptly, he chuckled. You must be quite skilled since you can kill so many members from my Saint Light Empire. However, I must take your life today. Else, I would not be able to secure my foothold in Yang City. That will depend on whether you have the ability to do so. Lin Dong smiled, before he slowly clenched his fists. At the same time, there was a golden glow faintly flowing beneath his skin, while a powerful sensation, that cannot be described by words, stealthily emerged. In fact, Jin Mu's half-step to Nirvana's aura did not threaten him at all. You will surely regret your actions. However, at that time, it would be too late. Jin Mu's voice was calm, before he slowly took a step forth. As he gripped his palm, a fiery red steel rod subsequently emerged in his hand. There were several peculiar tattoos inscribed on this fiery rod. Faintly, a burning sensation emerged from within. Evidently, this steel rod was a fairly powerful earthly soul treasure. Boom. When that fiery rod entered his hand, Jin Mu solemnly stomped on the ground, causing the solid rock panel below him to be instantly ruptured into dust. Following which, he violently dashed forth, while he waved the fiery rod in his hand and formed several powerful burning rod shadows, which swarmed Lin Dong from every direction. Bang! Bang! Whose those rod shadows swept forth, even before they reached Lin Dong's body, their formless force wind had actually blew the ground apart. While a savage wind blew, it made his attack seem pretty powerful. Nonetheless, as he faced Jin Mu's vicious attack, Lin Dong also gripped his palm. Following which, his heavenly crocodile bone spear appeared in his hand, before he jerked his arm and formed several spear shadows. This demonic beast looked blurry, and it seemed like it had no distinct appearance. Upon taking a closer inspection, it looked a ball of pure flames. At the same time, an extremely heated and savage shockwave continuously emerged from within. Saint Flames breaking mountain rod. A cold roar violently emerged from Jin Mu's lips. Immediately, the fiery rod in his hands ballooned, before it fused with that fiery red demonic beast. Then, his expression turned cold as he angrily swung it towards Lin Dong. Jin Mu's attack caused several peak manifestation practitioners' expression to change drastically, as all of them knew that they were unable to counter Jin Mu's current attack. In fact, even Haisho and the rest's pupils gently shrunk. As that fiery rod with a heated shock wave swept forth, Lin Dong knew that Jinmu was using manifestation martial arts. Its strength was indeed alarming. Saint Elephant Sky Collapsing Knock. Lin Dong's feet executed Supreme Purity Sky Wanderer steps, while he swiftly retreated. At the same time, he unreservedly pushed out every yuan power in his body before he quickly formed a giant glowing elephant in front of him. Following which, with footsteps that could shake mountains, he viciously countered against Jinmu's rod attack, boom. The instant they collided, extremely savage halo-shaped shock winds swept forth just like waves. Then, it was just as if the surrounding ground had received a devastating attack, as it was completely torn apart. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the point of impact, while an energy shockwave spread forth. Then, two figures quickly retreated several steps. After they managed to stabilize themselves, they had both left deep marks on the ground. Compared to Lin Dong, Jinmu retreated less steps. However, his expression turned exceedingly grim instead. Lin Dong was fairly more difficult to deal with than expected. For his previous attack, even a similar half-step to Nirvana stage practitioner would not dare to be negligent. However, Lin Dong merely took a few steps back, and he did not suffer any injuries at all. Moreover, what caused him to be the most enraged was that Lin Dong actually dared to use his Saint Light Empire's manifestation martial arts to counter against him. To him, that was the ultimate disgrace. However, my Saint Light Empire's ultimate attack has actually been executed by you in such a pathetic fashion. It is truly embarrassing. Since you like this martial arts this much, I will let you truly experience it. Jinmu took a step forward, before a low growl emerged from his throat. Following which, waves of yuan power swept forth before all the yuan power in this domain instantly materialized into a large and majestic glowing elephant in front of him. The savage shockwaves were several times more powerful compared to when Lin Dong and even Li Xing used it. Evidently, unlike Lin Dong, who only had an initial mastery, Jinmu had completely mastered Saint Elephant Sky Collapsing Knock. That large glowing elephant howled to the sky, while the emerging powerful shockwave finally caused other half-step to Nirvana practitioners like Hai Sho to turn increasingly solemn. For this attack, even if it were them, they must go all out in order to counter against it. This kid, it should be over now. Hai Sho glanced casually at Lin Dong. Even though he was surprised that Jinmu was being pushed till such a sorry extent, he figured that it was time to end. All the yuan power in the bazaar instantly raged. Meanwhile, waves of powerful yuan power shockwaves violently swept forth from within Lin Dong's body, just like a hurricane. The shockwaves that were able to rival a half-step to Nirvana practitioner instantly caused countless people's expression to change. Such a formidable shockwave. What martial arts is that fellow actually using? It can actually cause such a commotion. Such a commotion, even some mid-level manifestation martial arts cannot match up against it. Don't tell me that fellow actually possess high-level manifestation martial arts. High-level manifestation martial arts. Even Jinmu does not possess it. Where did that fellow come from? How could he actually possess such a powerful martial arts? Countless whispers instantly erupted in the bazaar, while countless bewildered stares were cast at Lin Dong. Evidently, they never expected that the latter could cause such a commotion. Even if you possess powerful martial arts, you are still unable to breach the gap between us. You do not have the qualifications to own such a powerful martial arts. You had better surrender it obediently, and perhaps I may spare your life. Jinmu was also shocked by this sight. Promptly, thick greed flowed into his eyes. With a chuckle, his figure flashed before it directly fused with that large glowing elephant. Instantly, savage shockwaves continuously swept forth. Evidently, right now, Jinmu had pushed his yuan power to his maximum. Though he was at half-step to Nirvana, even as he faced such a powerful martial arts, he did not dare to be negligent. That large glowing elephant stood upright in mid-air, while an earth-shattering and terrifying aura swept forth. Meanwhile, due to that formidable pressure, the ground below directly cracked apart. Following which, the nearby spectators hastily retreated. All of them knew that the two of them were in an intense fight, and if they were dragged in, they could only blame themselves. Saint Elephant Sky Collapsing Knock. Jinmu's body had fused perfectly with that large glowing elephant. Right now, his aura had been pushed till its maximum. Promptly, with a deep growl, countless resplendent light beams erupted from above that large glowing elephant. Then, with footsteps that could shake the heavens, it charged towards Lin Dong. Great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger, fifth finger moving the universe. While all the Yuan power in this domain raged, a cold and domineering shout echoed out. Following which, a golden glow faintly undulated on Lin Dong's kin. As that golden glow flowed, all the savage and rumbling Yuan power in his body were actually forcefully suppressed. That finger filled with a golden glow suddenly jutted out. This time around, Lin Dong's fingertips did not crack like before. Evidently, after he gained initial mastery of Lesser Nirvana Golden Body, his physical body was able to withstand the savage impact caused by his martial art, Dong. The heavens seemed to tremble the instant Lin Dong pointed out his finger. Following which, the air above Lin Dong's head was suddenly torn apart, before a large finger, that seemed to have came from an ancient land, instantly ripped through the air and emerged. There was only half a finger, and it was not a complete finger. Nonetheless, all the Yuan power in this domain instantly erupted, before a series of alarming airwaves swept forth, break. Lin Dong's expression was cold while a golden glow flowed in his eyes. That finger, that seemed to have came from the past, also violently stormed forth. With a terrifying speed, it directly appeared in front of that large glowing elephant. Under the bewildered stares from the crowd, two massive objects, just like meteors, tore through the sky, before they viciously clashed together in an awe-inspiring manner, boom. The instant they clashed together, the entire earth began to shake just like an earthquake had occurred. A deafening and alarming roar echoed out, while terrifying energy shockwaves swept forth and caused the crowds, who have already distanced themselves, to quickly retreat once again. In fact, even Hai Shou and the rest, who were at half-step to Nirvana stage, turned solemn at this sight. Immediately, their figures flashed, before they leapt into mid-air. Boom. Boom. Waves of savage Yuan power shockwaves continuously swept forth, while a resplendent glow filled the point of impact. You Saint Light Empire's killing move is merely so. You shall break. Lin Dong stood upright in mid-air, while his skin was golden bright, and he seemed extremely resplendent. As he calmly stared at the point of impact, he coldly snorted before he once again jutted out his finger. As he jutted out his finger, an extremely terrifying shockwave instantly emerged from his large finger. The might and terror of a high-level manifestation martial arts was now in full display. This time around, that large glowing elephant was no longer able to defend against it. As he faced Lin Dong's all-out punch, as well as the might of that large ancient finger, a series of large cracks instantly erupted on that large glowing elephant. Finally, under countless bewildered stares from the crowd, it subsequently exploded. A hurricane shockwave, that cannot be described by words, swept forth within the bazaar before a 100-meter deep ditch directly appeared in the arena. Following which, amid that exploding large glowing elephant, a figure shot out from within. Then, he directly left a several 100-meter mark on the ground before he finally stabilized himself hideously. Countless pairs of eyes instantly turned to look. When they saw Jin Mu land on the ground and directly vomit a mouthful of fresh blood, several of them instantly sucked in a soft breath. None of them had expected that Jin Mu would actually be wounded by Lin Dong. The entire bazaar seemed to have turned silent immediately. In fact, even Hai Shou and the rest, who were high up in mid-air, began to turn increasingly solemn. The fact that Lin Dong could injure Jin Mu indicated that he had the ability to injure them, who were also at half-step to Nirvana stage. Evidently, this time around, they had misjudged the situation. At the same time, Hai Shou gently heaved a sigh of relief. If Jin Mu had not made a move first, then he would have likely been the one injured. In fact, against Lin Dong's previous exceptionally powerful attack, even he did not have the confidence that he could withstand it. That fellow is actually a bastard acting like a pig to devour a tiger. A cold glint flashed across Hai Shou's eyes. It seems like there was going to be another formidable rival in the battle for the mysterious ancient key. Good kid, it's no wonder you dare to challenge Jin Mu. It turns out you are actually this powerful. Based on the golden glow undulated on your body, it is evidently an extremely powerful physical enhancing martial arts. In fact, it may even be more powerful than my Steel Empire's heavenly steel body. I wonder how that fellow managed to obtain such a powerful martial arts. That tanned muscular man from Steel Empire stared in awe at this scene, while he muttered to himself. Amidst the awe-inspired and fearful stares from the crowd, Lin Dong still quietly stood in mid-air, while the aura and blood in his body began to rage violently. Thankfully, Lesser Nirvana Golden Body is extremely powerful, and it was able to gradually suppress the boiling aura and blood in his body. Else, he would have definitely suffered a huge backlash after executing that powerful attack. As he stood in mid-air, Lin Dong stared coldly at that hideous-looking Jin Mu, who was desperately trying to stabilize his body. As he turned to look at the increasingly respectful stares around him, he knew that after this fight, he would have a say in this young city. A person that was able to injure a half-stepped Nirvana practitioner, there were no factions that dared to underestimate him. That was the respect or that one gained from one's strength and ability. Furthermore, this was precisely what Lin Dong needed now. However, regardless of how impossible it may seem, the facts laid bare in front of them and they had no other choice. Mo Ling and the rest were delighted when they saw this sight. As they lifted their heads to look at that man hovering in mid-air, admiration and respect involuntarily flowed into their hearts. Though their reputation in Great Yang Empire would not lose to Lin Dong, right now, they had no choice but to admit that there was quite a gap between them and Lin Dong. The raging Yuan power in this domain began to gradually calm down. However, it did not diminish the killing intent in Lin Dong's eyes. As he hovered in mid-air, with a trace of blood on his lips, he stared at a visibly shaken Jin Mu while his expression grew increasingly colder. Regardless, Jin Mu was indeed a genuine half-step to Nirvana stage practitioner. Based on Lin Dong's current strength, after he executed the fifth finger of Great Desolate imprisoning Heavenly Finger, even Li Xing and countless other advanced manifestation stage practitioners were all directly butchered by him. However, that Jin Mu was able to forcefully counter against it. Furthermore, even though he was wounded, it was not a lethal one. Nonetheless, based on Lin Dong's character, as long as that person was his enemy, he would show no mercy at all. Now that he had fallen out with Jin Mu, there was no need for words. He must kill him first in order to prevent any problems from occurring in the future. Action while he is wounded, Lin Dong must kill him. As this thought flashed across his mind, Lin Dong's expression suddenly turned icy cold. Following which, he gripped his palm before his heavenly crocodile bone spear once again appeared in his hand. As his feet executed supreme purity sky wanderer steps, he actually dashed forth again. With his powerful spear stretched out in front of him, he directly charged at a still shaken Jin Mu. Spear shadows emerged, while a peculiar growing noise faintly sounded out from within the bone spear. In fact, those spear shadows were lethal enough to easily penetrate a peak manifestation practitioner's defenses. Kid, you dare. Jin Mu was also driven mad by Lin Dong's vicious attack. Immediately, he could no longer bother to suppress the raging aura in his body, before he waved his fiery red steel rod in his hands. Just like a ring of fire, a burning and savage shockwind quickly swept forth. Since you want to kill me, what wouldn't I dare to do? Your Saint Light Empire member used your numbers to bully others, and you guys even tried to bully me. Unfortunately, you have chosen the wrong target. As Lin Dong continued to fight, he turned increasingly fierce while a golden glow flowed under his skin. Right now, he had completely activated his lesser Nirvana golden body. After activating it, he finally realized just how powerful this physical enhancing martial arts was. This lesser Nirvana golden body managed to increase the strength of his physical body by a terrifying extent, and it provided a tremendous boost to his defenses. The boost that he gained far exceeds that of Great Sun Thunder body. Mid-grade physical enhancing martial arts indeed lives up to its name. Lin Dong's provocations caused Jin Mu's face to turn purple, while the raging blood and aura in his body became even more turbulent. In fact, while he was dodging Lin Dong's attacks, his body even began to slow down. Oh no. However, the instant he lagged, Jin Mu's expression suddenly changed before he quickly retreated. You planned to flee. However, just as Jin Mu was about to retreat, a figure was just like a leech as he quickly followed him. Above those vicious spear shadows, a peculiar golden glow suddenly appeared. Then, that spear jerked before it directly tore through the air before it flew via a peculiar trajectory, and forcefully penetrated the defenses set up by the fiery red steel rod in Jin Mu's hand. After it penetrated his defenses, a cold glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes. Promptly, he slammed his palm solidly against his spear, before his bone spear instantly shot forth. Then, a formidable cold glint lightning quick struck Jin Mu's chest. Against such a powerful attack, if one was directly hit by it, one would likely die. However, just as that bone spear struck Jin Mu's chest, blood did not spurt out as expected. Instead, a crisp metallic sound echoed out, before a rich fiery glow erupted from beneath Jin Mu's clothes and actually forcefully deflected Lin Dong's fatal attack. You must be dreaming if you think that you can kill me. With my flame soul vest protecting me, even a half-step to Nirvana practitioner cannot kill me. Who do you think you are? Jin Mu lifted his head and stared grimly at Lin Dong, while he said, snort. Lin Dong's expression was cold as he suddenly jerked his arm. Immediately, a terrifying force gushed out just like tidal waves, before it directly blew Jin Mu away. As his body flew forth, it directly ripped through two towers. Protect our big senior. Right now, all the elite Saint Light Empire's members' faces changed drastically, and they were no longer able to tolerate anymore. All of them dashed forth and tried to protect Jin Mu. After all of them knew that Jin Mu was the heart of their Saint Light Empire, and if Jin Mu died, they would lose the qualifications to compete with the other empires. It is not your place to interfere. When they saw the other elite Saint Light Empire member interfering, Mo Ling and the rest's expressions turned cold. Following which, their figures flashed before they formed into a powerful formation. As streams of viscous yuan power hurled forth, they were actually able to completely intercept all the elite Saint Light Empire practitioners. Now that Mo Ling and the rest had reached peak manifestation stage, coupled with the formation imparted to them by Lin Dong, they could even fight against a half-step to Nirvana stage practitioner. Furthermore, disregarding half-step to Nirvana practitioners, there were hardly any peak manifestation practitioners left in Saint Light Empire. Lin Dong completely ignored those elite Saint Light Empire practitioners. In his eyes, as long as they were not at half-step to Nirvana stage, he had no reason to fear at all. Therefore, his ice-cold eyes stared right at Jin Mu, while he slowly tightened the grip on his bone spear. At the same time, his killing intent stealthily rose. Hai Sho, we can be considered as allies. If my Saint Light Empire is wounded, it would also affect your chances during the fight for the mysterious ancient key. Jin Mu's expression was cold, before he suddenly turned his head and barked at mid-air. In mid-air, Hai Sho gently furrowed his brows. After contemplating for a moment, he turned to look at Lin Dong before he said, "This young friend, even if you have a grudge with Jin Mu, I believe that it is time to stop now. It is best not to burn one's bridges, and it would be beneficial for you in the future. There are several Saint Light Empire's allies in Yang City, and if you cross the line and force the other great empires to attack you together, even if you have magical abilities, it would be difficult for you to escape. Since you have just came here, I would suggest you to do so. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.